My name is Rick O'Connor. I live on Roosevelt Island, and I publish the Roosevelt Islander blog. My question is to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office representative and the NYPD officer. Do you guys have any opinion on the use of tasers by the Public Safety Department? And do you have any experience with other departments that use tasers?
Once again, my name is Linda Jonet, and I'm with the Community Affairs Unit of the District Attorney's Office. And first of all, my office has never taken a position on the use of tasers by law enforcement. That having been said, we are in favor of law enforcement officers having the tools that they need to do their job safely and effectively. I'm not the person to say if that means they should have tasers or not. I just think that they should have the tools that they think that they need to do their job effectively. And the last thing that I do want to say is that as the Manhattan District Attorney's Office, and we prosecute any cases for Roosevelt Island, whenever there is any type of injury or an event involving injury, whether it be a police officer or someone with a police officer status or not, if that case and there is an investigation that leads us to believe that, gives evidence that the person acted improperly in a case and someone was injured as a result of those actions, criminal charges are going to be brought forth. We review instances involving the police department. We review instances involving peace officer status individuals. We investigate all these cases. We have what we call our official corruptions unit. And if anyone ever believes that any official bribery here on Roosevelt Island or on Manhattan Island, if you ever believe that you've been treated in a manner that rises to criminality by any public official, that case should be referred to, and you should make an appointment to come to the City District Attorney's Office. I do believe that if this is done in a manner where the officers are trained, and I would hope that the key word here would be effective training, that they be able to use tasers in a manner that helps them do their job better. But if they abuse that power, our office would be looking very seriously at it. And I think that's what we should be doing.
Okay, thank you. Officer Taser.
I wasn't coming here tonight prepared because I'm on vacation in August. So I got kind of thrown out at the last minute on this. So I can sit here and speak for a half hour. I keep my mouth shut unless I'm asked a specific question. This isn't a specific question, so I'm going to give a couple of responses back. Most people that already met me and dealing with me, they basically know that as a police officer here, I go up and down and I do, I feel I do a good job here. And I'm not with public safety, I don't sit there, so I don't have a formed opinion. People have spoken to me, so I don't have a formed opinion for or against. So I've sat here and I told a few people outside that you can convince me both ways on these officers what they do. When I listen to Mr. Guerra, I understand more because I'm a law enforcement officer and I see what he's speaking of. But I think people here fail. This is where I'm going to start. They fail to remember that these are officers, okay, that actually are stopping crime. Okay, they're not typically like the ones in the back, security officers. They are there stopping criminals from stealing phones, rob people. They are chasing people down. I think people are really honestly forgetting that. And they're just looking at, they harassed me on the corner. I mean, things like that can be taken up with, Mr. Guerra when you have a problem like that. But when it comes to, crime that people don't see every day that I see, you said something about, the 200 people. That's a situation where they'd be trained. And I can tell you right now, you're not going to take a taser out just like you wouldn't take, we're trained, and they would be the same, to take out your mace in an environment like that. going to do that. I said, answer your question, because I didn't have that opportunity to do that. Do you understand what I'm saying? So that taser in 200 people is not going to be used. It would be dangerous for me to take that taser out and use it.
I'm saying, as a cop, I think that you would
Hold on,
think why would
hold on. This is not a discussion between the two of you.
This doesn't like nobody saying nothing bad about public
No,
safety.
that's not.
No, that's
I feel like you wouldn't do that, but public safety would.
But listen, you have a strong opinion about that, and
He was answering my question, I didn't say.
but I'm saying I'm appreciative of your opinion.
Don't let him argue.
I also know that there are some folks that are sitting in here that have been arrested multiple times by public safety and by the NYPD. And they're sitting in here and being allowed to sit in here, or maybe leaving, because we want everyone's opinion. Okay? I can show.
I want to say.
The points here, the points trying to be made here are to be able to share information with the community. As I indicated to you from the beginning of this presentation, this is not a forum for anybody to make a complaint. This is not a forum for anybody to say, 2 weeks ago, someone stole my cell phone. This is not the forum for that. When that happens, you call and we'll take care of that on the spot. This is a forum to share information. And Officer Taser was sharing his information to answer Mr. O'Connor's question. It's not an opportunity for a dialogue to take place between someone who already had their opportunity to speak and the officer that has the floor. So if I could please ask that you allow the gentleman to continue answering the question that he was asked by someone else, and then we'll move to the other question. And I also will remind you that this session is ending at 7:30 promptly.
I'll make it quick. Guys, hold on. I think in all fairness, everybody's, most of the people here are for the against the taser. We see that. So, but when I'm giving you my view, okay, people forget, what you're not there every day to see. And so he's giving you a presentation. I'm going to give you reality. When they're there with me, and again, Erin knows me. She knows I don't have an opinion that's, they're the best in the world, okay? I'm a fair person every day. But I'm going to tell you, they put their hands on people. And when they're people forget, when they're at a job, okay, we're emotionally disturbed people. Somebody brought that up in the back. That is true. I've responded, I don't have the privilege here to tell you every single incident, but I'm here for emotionally disturbed people. And when somebody's acting erratically, okay, that is a tool that is used. I really need you to think about this. If you're in a household or a neighbor and they're actually emotionally disturbed and you watch on the news every day, you might not think it's not going to happen. But when these officers are here downstairs and you call them, they're acting erratic upstairs and they have a knife, what tool do they have to use? Really think about it. I know you want to wait till after it happens. I do. Listening to him, I understand that. And I'm here every day and I'm telling you it happens. So how would they go upstairs when they're right downstairs and handle that situation? It would be a taser. And now if they didn't have that taser, okay, and they have a knife, okay, you could say the baton, but they have a knife. And nobody wants to approach somebody, we're taught somebody has a knife. The next level is a gun, okay? So what I'm telling you is when somebody has a knife and they're going to hurt somebody else, I would feel that you would want them to taser them. And that is a situation that might happen, we hope not, could happen, and is a good possibility and has happened. Okay, so that is one of the times, besides, and the other time that he's telling you it's being used are affecting arrests. Actually affecting arrests, where the person is going to be arrested and handcuffed, in all fairness. I don't know, you're talking about just shooting people at random. No, this is the situation he's telling you. I'm actually putting the cuffs on and he's fighting me, so another officer comes and maybe helps me by tasering them, where we don't have to hurt them or hit them with the baton, like he stated. I'm telling you personally, that has happened numerous times, okay, where it's definitely the tool to use. Right? And so like I said, I'm not here for to say they should. I'm telling you situations. Just understand that. I really don't have a formed opinion. All right.
Can I just follow up?
As he indicated, there are various times when the taser could be used, and when a person is emotionally disturbed and is willing to harm themselves even with a knife or whatever have you, it is a very innovative tool to be able to prevent that person from injuring themselves. So just keep that in mind. Also keep in mind, if you're the person who's calling because you need law enforcement to respond to your home or your incident, what is going to be entailed in that situation? Some of you may live alone, and that's fine. You may not have anybody that lives with you that could be causing you harm. But what if you're in the hallway? Or what if you're on your way to your place? What if you're on your way to your car in the motorcade? Crime is not prejudice. Okay? Anybody can be the victim of a crime. You can be tall, short, old, young, small. You could have the ability to speak proper English or be a foreigner. It doesn't matter. This is New York City. And within the confines of New York City, I'm proud to tell you all that Sector Robert of the 114th Precinct, which this is the lowest crime sector in the entire borough of Queens. There's a reason for that. There's a reason why crime at Roosevelt Island is low. And I would like to believe that because you have your own public safety department, we are contributing to keeping the crime low. There are approximately 60 people in the room. There are 12,000 people that are home, safe in their homes right now because their crime here is kept low. As Officer Satara said, the officers are doing their job to thwart crime. The taser is a deterrent to crime. Okay? You don't have to be in favor of it in order to give your argument. We're not looking for that here. We wanted to share the information with you so that you could be aware of what's going on. Some of you are aware that there is crime here on the island. Some of you are not. Some of you are aware that we have gangs here on Roosevelt Island. Some of you are not. Some of you have been victims of crime here on the island. Some of you have not. So you have to be able to understand that you're entitled to your opinion, but there are others who have an opinion where they want to be assured that they can remain safe here on the island. So I'm going to go to the gentleman who has his left hand up to see what's next.
My name is Mark Lyon. I live at 30 River Road. I thank you for public safety for the hard work that you guys do. I don't think anybody should take any comments that are made here today as against public safety and the hard job that you guys have. That said, I would personally rather see if public safety needs weapons that they would be armed with firearms over tasers. I've seen them indiscriminately used.
Can we please give the gentleman the respect of the floor?
I would ask, in your slide where you were justifying the reasons, you just mentioned that we're the lowest crime part of Queens. In your presentation, you noted a number of increases, but you didn't quantify those increases. I think that information would be useful. And also, your department has been somewhat obstructionist. I think Rick has asked for information and reports of crimes that have taken place, and that information has not been provided, or it's been held back for some time. You made light of the video that's going to be recorded from these devices. Will your department promise to make those videos available under a FOIL request? And finally, my law firm represented the estate of a young man who was mentally ill. He did not follow an unlawful instruction from a police officer. It was later shown he should not have had to follow that instruction. As a result, he was tased. He fell, hit his head, and suffered cardiac arrest. My research leads me to believe that these devices are unsafe. Would you commit to having finalized procedures and policies for the use of these devices in place and approved before you request the devices from the board?
Okay, I'm going to answer the last question first, and that answer would be yes. The procedures would be finalized before the purchase of said tools. That's number one. Excuse me?
He asked that you ask for the approval before you asked for the approval of the board. Will you give all that information?
No. Before we purchase the information, we will have the procedure in place before we purchase it.
But not before you go.
What? There's a lot of work entailed.
Between
Hold on, I was answering that gentleman's question first. You already had an opportunity to speak, and To answer the gentleman's question, there is a lot of work entailed in coming up with a procedure, and so if to answer your question, we would have the procedure in place before we purchase the instrument, and the procedure would be reviewed by the Ops Committee of the corporation. With regard to your statement about us the officers carrying firearms, that again, your comment is well noted, but that really isn't the presentation here. The presentation here was for tasers. The other comments that also were not for this forum, we can speak offline about. I know you're trying to get an answer to a question that's not about this topic, and we can speak offline about that. And the other comments that you made, I appreciate you stating that the public safety officers do a very difficult job here. So thank you for your comments. I'm going to go to the basketball player who has a nice crossover and jump shot in the back. He had his hand up before you. Trust me, you can't see that because he's behind you. I will go to you after him. The chairperson of the Public Safety Committee? No. Okay. We're not gonna tase him in front of everybody here. I appreciate the fact that he's willing to do it. We also have our CFO that is present. He also volunteered. We're not going to do that. That's not part of the presentation, but thank you. Gentleman with the white shirt, and then the gentleman with the black shirt.
My name is Alberto Marzan. I've been arrested before. Does that mean I'm not supposed to be here?
No, absolutely not. I said the floor, the invitation was for everyone.
Even though I've been arrested. The statement you said earlier, like a couple people have been arrested and you allowed them to be here. You know, I'm just there. I've been arrested and I care about my community.
Very good.
So that's it, right?
I appreciate that.
Also, you lose a lot of money from workers' leave, right? Because your officers get hurt.
Okay, go ahead.
They do that on purpose so they can get the funding from your government, from your board. So, you know, that's like, I don't know.
We have officers that have documented broken limbs and an officer that was actually sliced with a knife. I don't think they want to do that on purpose.
Okay,
anybody here want to raise their hand and be sliced with a knife or have 2 fingers broken or a wrist broken? Anyone? I don't think so.
How about jumping off the step and, you know, hurting yourself? That doesn't seem reasonable enough.
If they're chasing somebody who is running down a flight of stairs and the individual is being pursued and the officer trips on those stairs and falls down the stairs, again, I don't believe anybody wants to voluntarily fall down a flight of stairs and hurt themselves.
Okay.
All right, thank you. Can I go to the other gentleman next to you?
All right, yes, my name is Henry Brown. I've been a part of this community for 22 years. I have a comment and a question. Number one, my comment is if crime has been down so much over here, why is there a need for a Tasers period? I don't understand why. So I think that would intimidate, so-called suspects a little further by them presenting a Taser or someone. Besides that, you mentioned earlier that on the 4th of July there were about 200 people outside, right? Now, you said that should be a reason for your officers to carry Tasers.
No, I did not say that.
Situation may seem so, but at the same time, you said that situation was handled with 15 people. So 15 public safety officers can convince 200 people to leave the block with no property damage, no injuries, no assaults, no anything.
I appreciate your comment and your question. The point about 4th of July was independent of that. In my statement, I was indicating that I had received calls of concern from some residents that had stated to me they were concerned about what they saw. And when they were given the actual outcome of how that incident was de-escalated without injury and without property damage, they were satisfied in the difficult job that the public safety officers had to do. With regard to your first question, which was, if crime is going down here, why do we need tasers? I think that's a great question. And what I'm going to say to you is that I've been here almost 5 years. And in the last year and a half, we've had 2 arrests where the individual who was arrested, both times, an individual from off island. The individual did not reside here. In both of those situations, an individual possessed a firearm. In both of those incidents. And as I said to you, thankfully, the firearm wasn't used in the commission of a crime, so that a resident here, or a business owner, or a visitor from the island was not actually seriously physically injured or killed, but in both of those arrests, a loaded firearm was recovered from the subject. So that raises concern, let me finish, that raises concern from the officers. The officers who are paid to do a job here, which is pretty much the same job as a police officer, to respond to calls for service, to respond to robberies, burglaries, domestic incidents, are placed in a situation where they are responding to these calls unarmed, and in the last year and a half ran into 2 incidents where the individual who was arrested possessed a firearm. So that would lead someone who is in that capacity, performing that function, to say, I would like to better equip myself if I'm going to continue to do this most difficult job. And again, I reiterate, 2 individuals who were apprehended and arrested did not reside on the island. I don't want you guys to think, I think what happens here is that folks think everything that we do here is directed at the folks who live here. Everything we do here, hold on, let me finish. Everything we do here is directed to protect and serve the people who reside here. There are many crimes that we have in our statistics that are committed on this island by non-island residents. You sometimes may think that, oh, they're targeting me, the guy who comes out of my building and hangs out in front of the deli. No, we're talking about the individuals that are getting arrested for beating up the kids that live on this block, who come to the island, and wearing a different color and beat up a kid who has a different color clothing on here on the island. Those are the incidents that we're also talking about. So I want you to be able to try your best to be open-minded with regard to the entire picture. As Officer Sataris indicated, the officers are responding to view the residents' calls for service. If there is someone who is emotionally disturbed and one of the residents calls us to that apartment, you are calling us to take care of that situation for you because you can't take care of that situation yourself. That's why you're calling for law enforcement to respond. So the officers that are responding need to be equipped with more than what you have in order to effectively take care of that incident.
So that comment doesn't go because you stated 2 incidents where you've taken loaded suspects with firearms. Suspects with loaded firearms in arrest. So if those suspects with those loaded firearms really intended on using them, would they have let the officers get closer to actually apprehend them? Would they actually let? Because this is what I'm trying to say pretty much. If you have a taser that has a cord that can only stretch 25 feet, yet you're 30 feet away from a suspect with a loaded firearm that's intended on using it to cause physical harm to anybody, you think he's going to let you get close enough to taser? You really think he's going to let you approach him?
All right, thank you for your
job for the NYPD.
Thank you for your question.
Well, actually, again, that was my answer. You said it's a job for the NYPD, but to answer that question, again, I don't know what happened with that incident, but if they're making that arrest, hundreds of times I've been involved where, no, I haven't been shot when the guy had the gun. So you actually answered your own question. We actually do get close enough when they have a gun where they don't shoot us.
No, yeah.
But the fact of the matter is, I have a gun. Right. But when these people don't have a gun, so what would you want them to do if they decided to start to take out something? What would you expect them to do? Get shot or stand?
Okay, I don't think he was asking that question to jar a response or an answer from you, but the woman there who's saying, call him. He's one person, he works one shift, 5 days a week. We have 37 officers that work 24 hours a day, 365 days a year here on the island. If we respond to a 911 call and get to your call for service, remember, you're the one calling us. We get there in 2 minutes, and he gets there in 12 minutes, there's a lot that can happen in 10 minutes. And if an individual that has a firearm commits a crime, just because they have the firearm doesn't mean that they're necessarily going to use it. As I indicated to you, in both of those incidents, the firearm was not used in the commission of a crime. However, a crime was committed. Someone was robbed of their cell phone here on the island, and the person who robbed them of their cell phone had a firearm. Okay, they didn't use it because you know what? If they took it out and used it, they would then be committing a more serious crime. Some people have firearms to commit crimes against other civilians, but don't necessarily want to use them in the commission of a crime against a law enforcement officer because they face a totally different situation.
Would we be here if we had enough public safety officers? No.
Do we?
Would this be an issue with tasers if we had enough public safety officers?
If we had more public safety officers, that would be beneficial to what we need to do here. But there are a lot of different things that are incorporated with that, and I'm not in control of how many officers I can hire. I have a budget that is controlled, so I have the amount of officers that my budget allows me to. If there was an increase in our budget to hire more, that would be a totally different situation.
Who would we email or call to say?
You can email or call the RIOC Board of Directors. You can email or call the president of the corporation.
What's their name?
You can call the office at 591 and they will provide you with their names. If you want to go to our website, www.rioc.ny.gov, there is a profile of all the board of directors here. Several of the board of directors are residents. Several of them are here in the audience.
So if we were to start a petition online, would anybody sign a petition to get more public safety officers? Yes. Would anybody help?
Listen, I want to comment to that. You can have 1,000 more. Again, this comes from a police officer. It doesn't matter. It's an individual situation. You could have people agree. You understand? It's an individual situation. You can have 1,000 cops. In other words, we can have a parade of 1,000 cops here. But if we get called upstairs for, like we said, somebody emotionally disturbed who's looking to harm the other person who's right next to them, it doesn't make a difference if there's 50 other cops downstairs. You need to run upstairs and be armed. Again, I'm just giving you the answer to the question. I can't answer that one. I'm giving you the answer. No. So the answer is no. I'm telling you, it doesn't matter. I'd love to have more. I'd love to have more. It makes my job easier when there's a presence. I can assure you that. I've been on this island now. Listen, for a presence, it's fantastic. It really is.
What he's trying to say, if I can interject, is it will make a difference when you talk about the broad scheme of a difference, but it will not make a difference in that isolated incident that he's referring to where someone has a knife willing to harm themselves or someone else. As he said, you could have 50 officers in that apartment if they don't have the tools that they need to take care of that situation.
In the broad life of Roosevelt Island, having 30 more properly trained public safety officers would make us safer. May bring down crime or instances where the officers get injured. And we may not need the tasers.
Well, the key word in your sentence is may. We don't know.
But we can all, as individuals, as residents who live here,
yes,
could call RIOC, email RIOC, and let our forces be known that the budget for more public safety officers needs to be increased.
Okay, thank you very much. I appreciate that. I'm going to go with one more comment here in the middle.
I'm Timo Williams. I've lived in the town for the entirety of my 20 years. That's a quick question. Keith Garrett, you stated, you mentioned firearms, situations involving firearms. My question is, in the two situations that occurred, how would a taser help the officers protect their lives?
Okay, to answer that question, again, based on the particular incident, and I can't put myself in that particular incident because I was not there when those individuals were apprehended. I don't know if a taser would actually be deployed in a situation like that. It would depend on whether or not there was compliance. As you saw from my presentation, the key was compliance. In both of those incidents, the officers were able to gain compliance from that individual, even though the individual possessed a firearm. Can I address a future situation where someone has a firearm? I cannot, because each incident is independent of another. Thankfully, in the two incidents that we had here, the individual was compliant, placed their hands behind their back, and the officers were able to arrest this individual each time, even though they possessed a firearm. In one of the situations, the firearm was concealed, so it was hidden. The officers did not discover that firearm until after they in the process of arresting this person, search the individual. So that was number one. And the other one was seen, however, the individual placed his hands behind his back and did not want to further escalate the situation based on the crime that he had committed. So in addition to his charge, he also was charged with possession of a firearm, but he was not charged with using that particular firearm. You have one more question?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, tasers, you mentioned that their primary purpose would be to prevent hostile people from fighting with your officers.
That's correct.
So, what is the relevance of the firearm? If the person is hostile with a firearm,
What I'm trying to indicate.
Safety officer in that situation.
Okay, if you remember the slide on the force continuum, the firearm is a higher level of force. And as Officer Taser indicated, if an individual has a dangerous weapon that they can cause serious physical injury or death to an individual, police officers are trained to go to the highest level on the force continuum that they are trained with, and that is to use a firearm to prevent that person from killing themselves or someone else. We're not at that level. We're at a level that's below the baton. The taser falls between the baton and the OC spray on the force continuum. As I indicated on one of those slides of the effects, now, I had a resident ask me, because this topic has been publicized for quite some time, and I fielded numerous calls on the topic. And one of the individuals knows that I'm also a father of a 15-year-old and a 13-year-old, and asked me, and I had this discussion with someone who's actually in the room, what would I prefer for my kid to be in that situation? And I said, of course, I would hope that growing up in a household with a police officer in the house, that my son would not be in that situation. But if, given those circumstances where my son was confronted with an officer that was going to either spray OC spray onto him, tase him, or use his baton, we're not even talking about the firearm because that's not part of the discussion. My answer to that individual was, I'd rather my son be tased because I have been sprayed with OC, I have been tased, and I have been struck and also trained in soft hand control, the use of a baton. And I can tell you the after effects are so different and limited with regard to the taser that I would choose of those three the taser. Now that's not to say that I would like to bring my son here and have him tased for no reason. Why I'm bringing that up is I want you to understand that I have experienced all three. Some of you may have experienced, some maybe, the majority of you have never experienced being sprayed, being tased, or being struck and thrown around a mat with soft hand control techniques with the baton. And the after effects are minimal. So that's the reason why I would have chosen that for my son. I just want to, I said that I was going to stop at 7:30, it's 7:40. I just want to close with this one quick statement, and that is, our officers who are unarmed do a tremendous job of protecting and serving this community while taking unnecessary, thank you for that clap, while taking unnecessary abuse from individuals who see that they do not carry a firearm and question their authority. These are your officers, folks. They protect your families and your property. Take pride in them and support them in their quest to be better protected. Remember, like you, they too have families and would like to return home safely after working their tour of duty. Thank you very much.